Hi, my name's Ali. I'm 27 and I work at West for Youth Online, which is located in Walkerton, Ontario, and I work as the youth outreach coordinator there. I've been really interested always in the psychology bit of things, and especially how substances, legal or illegal, end up affecting that. And I also have had cannabis use, but for a very brief time in my life, so only about a year, honestly. And so how that affected my mental health at the time was a big, I'd say, component of being interested. And then also I have had a partner in the past that definitely had underlying mental illness that wasn't being addressed or treated. And then they were using cannabis as like a self-medication method, and it was actually detrimental to their mental health and ended up revealing kind of schizoaffective behaviors that did end up later diagnosed, but it definitely exacerbated the problem at the time. So yeah, just a little bit of everything. So I didn't try until I was 19, which is like super late where I come from. And I actually tried it like spending time with someone that was younger than me. So like I got reverse peer pressured. But I started just because I, at the time, I hadn't received my mental health diagnosis of bipolar. I have bipolar type 2. At the time, it was just depression. And so I was like, okay, well, I want things that are going to make me happy. So I just was friends with people that had just really sold it for me and been like, this is so helpful. It really calms my anxiety. It helps me sleep. And I was like, oh my God, okay, this is the magic solution. I'm going to do it. And yeah, so I started fairly regular recreational use. It definitely became like a social thing. And then, yeah, it was still really casual. Um, and I was maybe 8 months in or something and had kind of a negative experience. And within the year, I'd quit. But it's not most people's experience, I think. But I'm pretty stubborn and strong willed. So when I was like, nope, it's done, it was done. So. Definitely have thought about it and like considered it. Part of not doing it is like I do use medication as part of my treatment for my mental illness, and just being very cognizant that substances do interact with prescription medication. And so part of it is that. And then also just being mindful of there's a lot more products that are being like cut into marijuana, and there's a lot of different methods to consume cannabis or use cannabis at the time, and it's like I would just rather choose to abstain than try to make a difficult choice at this point, just because the information that's out there is so inconclusive. Yeah, it's just the personal choice, and I'm really lucky in that most of the people in my life don't use cannabis aside from medicinally. And so that makes it also easier though, because I think if I were in situations where it was like really a social norm and that, that was part of what we did when we hung out, it would be a lot harder. I guess just think about why you want to try it. If it's just trying it for the sake of trying it, just looking at the circumstances in which you're doing it, like making sure you're in a like mentally good state, and also super important that like you're around safe people. I think if you're the only one trying cannabis when everyone else is very seasoned users, that you could get yourself kind of out of your depths. So just being really intentional about that choice, and also just making sure you access as much information as you're able to about whatever method of use you're looking at. So I stopped because I had a really bad experience that ended up with me going into the hospital overnight. Particularly, the scary part for me was that I didn't have a recollection of how I got there. And I remember before I went in, like physically what I was experiencing, and that was terrifying. I really didn't want to do that again. But when I was in the hospital, the doctors had said, like, did you take anything? You need to tell us what you took or we can't help you. And I said, like, I just was smoking weed, you know? And they're like, no, like, you have to tell us. Like, what do you mean? And unfortunately, it had been cut with another substance. And because I was with people I trusted and because they were doing fine, I was like, it'll be fine. But I was very not seasoned user in comparison to them, so I'm not sure if that's part of it. Or also, at that time, I had started taking medication, so I'm not sure if that also interacted and like just made it a little worse. But for me, that was kind of a scared straight moment, and I did use a few times afterwards, but would always just kind of get a little freaked out. And so, yeah, rather than choosing to always have to second guess, I just kind of stepped back, changed my friend group entirely. And I think that was a hard thing. And I think I don't envy youth who have to go through it, because if you look at your relationships and find out like that activity is really what you guys have in common, like it can be disheartening. And also you deal with the dichotomy of, you know, I've quit because of this bad thing, but not wanting to be judgmental of them and their choices. So just walking the fine line of educating, but also being respectful that they can make their own decisions and they've taken the steps to be informed, and yeah, just kind of live my own life.